Hello everyone, welcome to the MOOCs on digital media. Since digital media is everywhere evident now, today we witness digital media everywhere, like we deal with internet, we use social media for interaction, and in that manner we see that it is not only network society which is being widened, but also it has direct connection, the internet has direct connection to the society as a whole. For that we need the understanding on internet and society, particularly when it comes to the understanding of inclusivity in terms of marginalized sections. Here today we are going to discuss internet and the marginalized sections. So, welcome to this discussion. First of all, we are going to discuss marginalization and the marginalized. What do we mean by the term itself when it comes to the society participation, when we see a cohesive and inclusive society? So, let us discuss. Let us start with the understanding of marginalization and the marginalized. So, first of all, let us take the terms exclusion and inclusion. See, these are two very related concepts. One, if it is not included, will be excluded. Okay, so in order to understand the process of inclusion and exclusion in terms of socio-cultural political sphere, we see that marginalization is at process. How we see this process takes place? Now, there are certain factors when it comes to the understanding of marginalized as section, that is identity and marginalization as a process towards building that identity, or say something that is not included or not being inclusive in that. So, first of all, we see that lack of reach and access to the socio-economic resources lead to this isolation, the feeling of alienation, you may say. So, the socio-psychological effects of being not important, being not participative, not for the individual emancipation, not for the group's empowerment, and also not as an active member of society itself. Okay, so in that sense we see that it not only secludes the person, the individual, it also works not only secludes the groups as well, the sections as well, but also negatively affect the society in terms of again when it comes to the understanding of us and them. So, it creates that sphere of us and them where you have negative public attitudes to look at certain segments or individuals in society. Now, politically speaking, we see that if you are not politically participating, for example, we are living in democracy, we know that what power the right of vote has, and we feel empowered and we feel important the day we form government. And government for what? Government for policy formulations, government which looks into day to day governance related activities of us as a society or a nation for that matter. So, being political or say being involved in political processes is as much as important like being socially participative. So, in that sense too we see that if economic resources, cultural and social resources or lack of it increases marginalization of segments of people, then we also realize that if the person is not involved in political empowerment or political participation, it also leads towards the notion of what you call powerlessness. So, position of powerlessness in political processes is also one perspective to look at the process of marginalization and how it creates or say it actually increases the problems of the marginalized community, since if you are not able to voice your concern, if you are if you remain unheard, that will going to affect your policy in terms of say your governance. So, the process includes oppression, exclusion, vulnerability and discrimination. Now, what do we mean by these terms when we look these terms into political perspective? So, first of all, if we see oppression, that means that certain policies may be formed in terms of say one dominant over the other, and where we see that exploitation takes place. So, in order to not to make such policies, or in order to avoid that stance, in order to make society cohesive and what participatory or inclusive, we need to look at those areas, areas of exclusion. If someone or say some communities are excluded from the process of political participation, where we go for policy formulation and governance issues, we need to increase inclusion and we need to decrease the level of exclusion that way. And it also is related to vulnerability and discrimination on the same line as we have talked about, say, oppression and exploitation. So, moving on, those factors, whether it is lack of resources in terms of economy, whether it is social exclusion, or whether it is powerlessness in terms of what we call political participation. By looking at all those things, we can define the process of marginalization or the condition of marginalized as the condition of social exclusion, where the marginalized lack effective participation in key activities or benefits of the society in which they live, as due to the barriers that block the attainment of livelihoods, human development and equal citizenship. So, here one word, that is equal citizenship, becomes very important, since it actually indicates towards the participation of all in society, that in that way. Okay, so let us look at certain measurement indexes. Why these are important? Because again, in terms of understanding of the same parameters which we have discussed so far in terms of the process of marginalization, we can see that these measurement indexes work towards indicating or say highlighting the areas, the segments of societies, the pockets in terms of demography, where we witness exclusion socially, economically and as well as politically. So, let us have a look on first of all Human Development Index. So, if we look at Human Development Index, we find there are 3 yardsticks, or what do you call it, as indicators of human development. So, it talks about health, it talks about education, and standard of living. So, here we actually can understand again that it asks for participation. When we talk about standard of living, it may include, though Human Development Index only talk about say in GNI per capita, that in stricter terms of economy, but otherwise too we can look for social inclusion when it comes to standard of living. Education, why education is important? Because it not only provides us with the fair chances of upward mobility in terms of standard of living, be it economical or social, but it also provides us with the very decision making ability which actually enhances our participation politically. And health is utmost factor, and since we have witnessed the time of COVID, we realize it more that health, if you are healthy, if your nation could provide you the chances of better health, then only you would be building upon socio-political, cultural and economic spheres on that basis. So, another index is multi-dimensional poverty index. So, here again we have factors that could be the guiding principles when we look at upward mobility or social inclusion, in other words, because to decrease marginalization, to mitigate marginalization, or to lessen the effects of the process of marginalization, we need to look at those indicators for improvements. So, again we see health, education and living standards become important guidelines for that. Then on the similar parameters, we also have gender inequality index, where we see that where are the lacks, where are the vacuums created, and where it is needed to be filled for gender equity and gender equality. So, on those lines we see that social inclusion is strived to be achieved at. So, now in the same vein, while understanding marginalization, we can see that the concept of marginalized is actually one identity. It is related to the identity, that is a kind of social construct, different in time and space. Now, when we say that marginalized is an identity as a social construct different in time and space, what do we mean by saying this? Is that, you know, to understand, like I will be going back to the Human Development Index, where we were actually talking about standard of living as one parameter to look into the issues of marginalization. But when we look at socially, we find that not only the economy could be the parameter of, say, marginalization, power relationship also plays important role in society sometimes, but we also see that in other sector that the same power relationship breaks down, and we see that the person very much in power position at one place could be the vulnerable entity in front of some other situation. So, in that sense we can say that it is actually situational, it is contextual and situational and also relational. For example, you take a rich woman for that matter. So, if we look at the example, we can recognize the woman to be economically powerful, or but when it comes to the understanding of her social construct, we find that as soon as she actually leaves the sphere of economy and comes to the social sphere, we see that she becomes vulnerable in terms of gender. Or say for example, any rich man living in a vulnerable geographic or say demographic area. What here we mean to say is, if the area is vulnerable, for example, there may be no facilities of health, education or other thing, but the person is rich and person may be the leader of the group, but having economic as well as political power, but when it comes to the access towards the essential health facilities, he becomes vulnerable to the condition, to the very condition because of the lack of resources. So, we see that marginalized is not a fixed identity in that terms. Marginalized is very fluid term, and you can experience the moments of marginalization here and there. Okay, and that is why we have such indicators like economically backward section or say socially backward sections, to look at what kind of backwardness you are actually experiencing. So, there are three levels, different levels as provided by Madsen of marginalization, that is individual level, social and cultural conditions, and complex interplay between people and their social environment. So, we can understand it with again marginalized and in contextual, situational and relational manner. So, individual could be related with contextual marginalized identity, social and cultural conditions are something related with situational marginalized identities, and complex interplay. When we talk about that interplay, we are actually indicating towards the relational marginalized identity. So, that is how we know that marginalization is not that simple watertight compartment to be described or you know, in a concrete definition that way. So, now how do we locate marginalization becomes important, and for that we need to remove those chances of marginalization, and also it is important, since right at the beginning we were discussing that how it is relational term, it is comparative term, since if we are talking about exclusion, we have to talk about inclusion. So, in order to mitigate that exclusion, we have to create conditions of what you call mainstreaming. So, mainstreaming means bringing the marginalized sections to the center. So, mainstreaming is important, and how can we do it? By increasing the chances of inclusion and participation. So, inclusion, how we are going to bring chances of inclusion in society? It is simply done by bringing marginalized sections and making those marginalized sections participatory in all kind of decision making. So, after understanding marginalized and marginalization, let us discuss internet as the form and the medium. So, we have seen that digital technology is everywhere. We know that how digital technology work, but when it comes to the social understanding of internet, we have to see that how it actually brings all the form together in one medium. So, it may be in terms of, as Livingstone and Leroux has described it, like it may be in the form of devices, it may be seen in the form of activities or social arrangements that is what they call it, social arrangements or organizational forms. So here we can actually look at the internet, the digital platforms as simply as devices, or say the way we work with them, or most importantly when it comes to the relationship with marginalized sections, we see it as social arrangements or say organizational forms. So let us understand that. So internet works as an interface. So by interface we mean that it is actually based on connectivity. It is the connection between individual and the device, between individuals through the device, and between societies or various sections of society when we call it as a network. So internet is all inclusive in that way. So from interpersonal to mass communication, we see that all kind of communication, all kind of forms of communication takes place on the single platform. So if you are simply say creating the content and keeping it with yourself, it actually it may even go further in terms of intrapersonal communication. So if you are exchanging that content or message among two individuals, it remains as interpersonal communication, and we see that email mostly work on those lines, though we also have group communication now, because we have got that facility of say group mailing and all other sort of things. Then it also provides a platform for mass communication, especially if you look at how we have we are engaging in the content provided on the platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, or say Instagram. So we know that all those sort of platforms are not only working as devices, they are not merely practices, but they are actually building the patterns of social relationships in society. So we see that digital devices have the flexibility of usage. We see that consumable media content is created and shared on social media in two-way flow. But again, when it comes to the understanding of the emerging social patterns, we see that this two-way flow is not only just the two-way flow, but beyond it. So it actually is creating social practices in society. So it is interactivity that gives the voices to the unheard, and these are the positives when it comes to the internet. Now when we start with the understanding of internet as medium, we see that it brings with it one more concept, that is mediation. Now what is mediation? So we have two types of mediation at work. Sometimes it is simply technology which you bring in the message delivery, or in simpler terms, it facilitates your message delivery. So in other terms, it remains the direct communication. So technology as a facilitator to communicate directly without the constraints of time and space. Then there are when it comes to the participation, we see that it takes place not only in terms of production or say mediation in communication, or say consumption, but also at the stage of production and beyond. So there are few challenges though. What are these challenges? First of all, the technical know-how itself, because as we observe, there are certain sections in society who are not literate, forget about digital media literacy. So we know that there remains the challenge of technical know-how. We need to impart that skill, and we need to transfer that skill to the persons. Moreover, we are actually facing more challenges because of the very nature, very dynamism of internet related devices too. So, one day we are looking at one technology, the other day we see some changes to that technology is taking place. So, in that sense we see that technical know-how remains a challenge. Then production of native content, it is something related with marginalized sections, where we actually see that because of the challenges involved in production, we do not see the native content coming in. So, there are also challenges of social mainstreaming, like if we and particularly talking in terms of native content, even if marginalized sections go for making their own content, they produce it, it is very much needed to be attractive, otherwise it will lost because of the less circulation, and if it is not circulated widely, and if it fails to make its imprint, then retention becomes a difficulty. So, in that sense we see that the content of marginalized section is also being marginalized on the internet platforms. So, there are multi-platform visibility of the content as the essential element, since a change in a social platform's algorithm affects the content visibility. So, to understand this, we see that how if we lose the readership on one platform, say YouTube, for example YouTube, see if you have limited viewers, if your viewers are not increasing, then your content would be coming in somewhere on the bottom of the page. Okay, so that will actually lead to decreased visibility again, because this has been the tendency observed among the users of internet, that they go for topmost links to surf on. Okay, so because of that we need multi-platform visibility for that kind of content. Then we have talked about mediation. Let us discuss that again. So, mediation takes place in two forms: via media for direct communication at technology level, which could be observed in terms of email. Again, when we see Facebook or any other platform, we see that we actually reply the messages, and it remains direct somewhere, but mostly we see that in content processed to be communicated through sender to receiver at institutional organizational level. So, it is mostly some mediator performing the role in between. So, in that sense mediation is a complex process where one entity represents the whole body. Often such narratives takes the extreme shapes with opposing interpretations and result in the symbolic frontiers between us and them, which is quite visible whether you talk about Twitter fights, Twitter wars, or Facebook and tensions involved in extreme views over the platforms which we receive. So, and those are institutionalized, that is the most difficult part. So, again looking at the mediated and non-mediated communication, we realize that though the process of mediation on internet ought to be different from the one person's narrative, yet they are more or less the same due to lack of technical accessibilities. So, we see that because of the divergent, we also see similar kind of conventional episodic content form is visible on the internet, and the voices of the marginalized is yet to be heard. And moreover, in absence of authentic content, the serious issues either remain hidden or take a distorted shape of entertainment, and that is again the challenge related to production, because we see if it is not entertaining, it will not attract more audiences and forget about the retention then. From here we are going to move on participation. So, participation of the marginalized sections on internet with need based bottom up approach is needed, because why are we choosing internet is important to be understood. So, we are choosing internet to get our voices heard. So, we need that need based approach. Then again for that we need bottom up planning and participation in content production and participation. So, we need to reach to the marginalized sections, we need to strategize mobilization for participation, which is especially important for mainstreaming of the knowledge, time and space of the marginalized themselves. So, what here we mean to say is that we need to reach to the marginalized sections, we need to go for digital media literacy, we need to conduct workshops, we need to make them participative, and then we need to ask them that do it yourself. Then locating the marginalized on the network, for that we can actually to mitigate marginalization, we need to increase the presence of the marginalized on internet. To ensure this, one has to look into the factors of reach and access to the technology and digital media literacy, as we have said. For that we have to look at the practices, we have to look for those patterns, and we then bring those segments, those sections of the marginalized into the participation affair. So, it may be the consumption, it may be the production or participation, which is very much essential to it. And to ensure inclusivity, these activities have to be seen at two levels, that is mediated practices, non-mediated practices. Let us conclude our session on that very point, that in order to bring the marginalized sections into the mainstream, to increase the inclusivity, to decrease the exclusivity, we need to make the internet more participative. Now, in our next segment, we would be going to talk about various challenges related to to the internet when it comes to the network embeddedness and heterogeneity, digital divide and digital diversity, and all other those patterns which we see in terms of which are related to internet based media practices. Thank you very much for joining me for this session.